Hello, hello. Welcome, Lamos, to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. I am Melissa.
And I'm Ellie.
And we are here with our very first episode. Very excited.
Yeah.
All right.
Our first one.
Do you want to just jump right in? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Wait. Let's start. Well, hold on. Rewind. We thought about doing a summary of the book and then started recording and then realized that it was just a retelling of the book, and we decided not to do that. So we want to, obviously we'll go over the book, but this won't be as fun to listen to if you haven't already read it. So if you haven't already read the first 20 chapters, I believe is what we're doing today, right, of the first book. Pretty sure.
I thought it was 1 through 21, but it seems it's
okay.
1 through 20.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't already read the first 20 chapters of A Court of Thorns and Roses, and you want to before you listen to this, I would suggest stopping now. We're mostly just going to be having a conversation about what happened. So I guess there will be some retelling of it. But anyways, I guess I know that we already had a spoiler alert, but I'm going to do another one. Spoiler alert if you haven't already read it and you want to. Come back later. For those of you that have or don't care, we're going to just go ahead. We're trying to do it, I guess, in chronological order. But
yeah, for sure. But I do want to start with a general question.
Yeah.
Do you think this book was worth all the hype that it's been getting on TikTok and Instagram and across the world?
1,000%. In
Good
my
answer.
humble opinion, I think it deserves more. I'm surprised that I realize a lot of people are talking about it, but I'm surprised it took me so long to hear about it.
Did it take you long?
I mean, you were the one who told me about it. I had never heard of it before you said something.
Really?
Well, I guess to be fair, I'm also newer to the book world and specifically high fantasy. But no, I had never even, I guess when you had said something to me, and I guess it's one of those things where once you hear it or see something, you start paying more attention to it. You had said something about the books and how they were the best books you've ever read, and then I was like, oh, okay, gonna tuck that away for a rainy day, but also realizing I knew myself. I was like, I'm not actually gonna read these. Mm-hmm. But then I saw them at Target one day and I was like, oh, I think these are the books that Ellie was talking about. Because I was with my mom and I was telling her, and then but then I forgot about it again. And then eventually I actually started reading them. And then I read all of them in 3 weeks and couldn't put them down.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend tell me about them. I think I saw a mix on Instagram and thought, doesn't seem too bad. But I've been reading fantasy for a while. So it was all right, the next read. But I had a friend, I told her I was going to read these, and she said, don't ever take advantage of the fact that you get to read these for the first time, because you will never get to read these for the first time again. So just really go into it, savoring every single word. And so I'm like, it's a heavy
high
thing to say to me. Yeah. So I did. I went into it with that and I loved it. It was so good.
Oh yeah. I'm forever grateful that you told me to read these. I know I've mentioned this to you before, but I just want to say it here in case anyone else sympathizes or even agrees. I feel like it took me so long to jump into high fantasy and things of books. It just, I guess, honestly, just fantasy in general, but because of the cover art, I just feel like I don't.
That's insane to me. That's insane.
Well, no, it's not. It's marketing. That's the whole. What marketing is.
I agree, but they're so. I feel like all the books are so good. They're so well designed.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about these, but you didn't let me finish.
Okay,
the Court of Thorns and Roses are different. Those ones didn't look like high fantasy, and so that's why I was like, oh, okay. But I also have seen copies. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it. I don't know if these are the original editions or if they're just special editions, but I have seen some versions of this book that look very high fantasy to me, and
But have you never heard not a don't fan. Judge a book by its cover?
I have. And have you ever met anyone that actually lives by that?
Okay, so honestly, no, because
to some extent,
when I was in my graphic design job, when I started freelancing, I created a website for myself, and my slogan was, let's be honest, we all judge a book by its cover, so make sure your cover's good.
Okay, so take your own advice. Anyways, I just feel I don't know, because thinking about like what to read next, like when I'm done with the series that I'm on right
Mhm.
now. And I just like I need personal recommendations because if I'm just looking at a book, even though I know this like back
Yes.
in my head, if I'm just looking at it, I'm like, this book's gonna suck. And I
Yes.
don't really know why I think that, just because of the font or like
No,
the
absolutely,
pictures
and I
that
think that's, like, a huge part of why I also wanted to do this podcast is because
yeah.
unless I have personal referrals and
Yeah.
I have a little snippet of, "Oh, that book sounds really good," more than just the back cover summary. I wanna
Agreed.
know what small details without completely spoiling it, which we probably will if you're really listening in on this podcast, but without completely spoiling it, I wanna know what's it all about. Like, right now I'm reading
Yeah.
Outlander because I just watched the show and I'm like, "Well, there's gotta be more in the book that
Oh
details
yeah.
more," but now I know the gist of it and I know it's
Yeah.
good, so I wanna read the book too.
True. Those isn't
Mhm.
that like 3 books, or how many books is Outlander?
I don't
Am I
know,
way off?
but it looks really long. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a big
I
book.
I don't know if well, because I looked into reading it, but then I was on Libby and I typed it in and like they didn't have the original one wasn't available, but that they had
Yeah.
like spin-offs. But after reading the description, it sounds like what happens in the show. So I didn't know if the show involves more than I don't know.
It's pretty right so far, it's pretty detailed to the show. Like the show follows along really well. But that's not what we're here for.
You're right.
So
I could talk forever about random stuff. So let's jump into the questions about A Court of Thorns and Roses. Okay, starting with the first one, very, very opening of the book. What was your first impression of the main character, Feyre, and her family and her town?
I think I've said this before to you, but I think for all the girls that read The Hunger Games and Divergent, like welcome back from your 10-year sabbatical of reading because this starts off
Yep.
very Hunger Games to the point where I was like, am I just reading another one of these? Which I'm not that upset because that was a great book. But Feyre is, they all live in this really poor,
Yep.
destitute town. They're poor. They live in this little cottage. It's completely run down. She has um, sisters that she has to take care of. She's the youngest.
I
So
guess that's
she's
a little bit different than Hunger Games, but
a little bit, but she's out there hunting
agreed.
and trying to,
Yeah.
provide for her family. So what do you
She
think?
has one parent who is like not fully there. I guess
Yes.
her dad's there, but like not
Yeah.
doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't get that connection initially, but probably because I never read the books. I only ever watched the movies growing up. Um, I I'm not gonna lie, it took me I had to set the book down and restart it probably like 3 times before I like actually kept going. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's an unpopular opinion or not, but just that initial like first start of it, I'm just like, man, this is sad. And like, and she jumped right away into like explaining what Fae and like the like difference between like the human world and the fair like Fae world and Prithian and like all that stuff. And I again just like this being my first high fantasy book, I was like,
Yeah.
what did you tell me to read, Ellie?
No,
Like, kind of in the back of my head.
I tell my husband all the time when I first start books, it's discipline and
Yep.
from the probably halfway point to the end, that's when it's enjoyment, but it is
Well,
always such a struggle.
I definitely enjoyed it before the halfway point.
That's
But
good.
it I think I reread the first 4 chapters like 3 times and then I was like, "Okay, I'm going to commit to this." And then after like a little bit longer, it got a lot better. But
Yeah.
I didn't I mean, obviously you're not going to quite understand everything from the get-go, but it did I didn't totally understand why Elaine was so close with Nesta in the beginning and not as much with Feyre.
Yeah, her
Um
sisters.
yeah,
Um,
oh, yeah, you're right. I guess I should have.
I
I figured
didn't
anyone listening to this point probably has read the book.
I know. It's very popular. You should read it. Um, yeah, I didn't understand that either. And also it just gives off right from the bat, it kind of lets you know Nesta's super rude and Elaine
Yeah,
is
it's
pretty
sweet.
weak, but
Well,
sweet.
yeah, so, like, I understood why she wanted to protect Elaine, but I didn't quite understand the, like it felt like the wall that was between Feyre and the other 2. Like, it was them and her and then her dad. That's kind of like and
Yeah.
I mean, that's what is how you're supposed to feel, and I just didn't I was kinda getting irritated reading it. I'm like, "Why isn't this middle sister nicer to Feyre? Like, why does she
I
just, like,
know. Yeah.
submit to everything?" Like, and Nessa's a jerk. Why is she just, like, let her be that way if she's actually this nice?
Yeah.
So I had a hard time with that, but, I also reading, and then when they started talking about like the children of the blessed, I was like, or the blessed, I was like, oof. I didn't know what direction we were going in with that one. With that, and I was like, is this gonna? It kind of reminded me of like, as if anyone's read Dune or watched the movie, like kind of reminding. I was expecting it to be kind of like the Bene Gesserit, kind of like that.
I've never, first of all, never read it. Second of all, I mean, hey, I don't care. It sounds like the most boring book in the entire world.
I'm not gonna lie, the book is so dry. The book is, but the movie
The
is very
movie is
good.
so dry. You made me watch it, and I absolutely hate it every second.
Okay, well, all right. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one coming out at the end of this year. If anyone's listening to that, shameless plug because this is our first episode, so probably no one. But I really enjoyed the movie. Okay, and anyways, wasn't sure what the how heavy of a storyline that was going to end up being. But anyways,
Wow. All right. So, when the first Fae appeared, what was your reaction?
are we talking
We're talking Feyre goes out, she kills the
hunts?
wolf.
And
Yeah.
then okay, sorry, I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure if you're talking about the wolf or not.
Oh, no, no, no.
I was also super confused about that in the beginning just because I didn't understand high fantasy and like fae is like a trope. Like I
Mhm.
didn't I didn't get that at first. I thought it was just like so I felt like there wasn't a ton of explanation on it, and now I understand why. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, when that first fae breaks through the door, I had a really hard time picturing what I thought he looked like just because it's so out there.
Mhm.
Like had horns, but also looked like a cat, but also like a deer. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like, wait,
So I'm going to
what?
back up a little bit. So Feyre ends up killing this wolf to feed her family,
Yeah.
and sells the pelt, all of that. But she was also like, this wolf is a little bit bigger than a normal wolf, but if it was a Fae, it would have killed me already.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go for it. And she uses an ash arrow, which is the only type of arrow that can kill a Fae,
Just in case,
just
because
in
she wasn't
case.
sure.
She wasn't sure. So she kills it. Then later, I think it's like later the next evening or that evening,
Yeah.
a big strong man breaks through the door
Not
who is
man.
Fae, male
Creature.
creature, breaks through the door that's Fae. Was he
Yeah.
transformed at that point?
No, he
Was he
didn't
the
look like
wolf?
I just that no, yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he was like the cat, wolf, deer thing. Like
Oh. So
that's why I
Fae
was
have
saying
different what do we call that? Like phases. Like they can morph into their creature form or they can be their Fae form. They have one of the two. So I
shape
think
shifting. I don't know if is the
shapeshift.
correct term, but
No.
that's what yeah, that's
So
how
he
I
breaks
explain it.
in. He uh basically tells her that there's a treaty, so he has to take her with him and she has to live out her days in Prithian, or he's going to, what was it, kill her
Yeah,
and her
shred her to
family, or
ribbons to be
shred her to
specific.
ribbons. Yeah. So I agree with you. When they first described him, again, obviously I was kind of confused. I didn't remember if he was a creature or if he was Fae. But when they went on to describe him later on, I think I told you this. I probably was asleep reading that because I'm picturing him as this like large Thanos looking purple guy. I don't know, like just like not an attractive male, just
I
this
forgot.
really large beastly man. And I'm like, okay.
Well, I guess if you think about it, like this is a loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast in the
Mhm.
beginning. So if you're not paying attention when they're actually explaining what he looks like in his Fey form, and you know that, I would probably like think of a creature too, because that's kind of the storyline.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was not sleeping when I read this, and however, I do have the imagination of a 7-year-old, and so even though I know how they explained him, I know that this isn't right. When you know how when you just get something in your head and you
You
just
can't
like
get it
can't.
out.
Okay,
Yes.
so I know that this is not how it was explained, but I pictured his creature form being like that of a Chinese dragon, specifically animated.
Yeah.
And my daughter likes the movie Wish Dragon on Netflix, so kind of looked like Wish Dragon to me. If you you'll have to look that up later. But I don't know why. I just pictured him looking like a dragon that's in like a parade where it has like all like 10 people underneath kind of like going like this.
I
Um
yeah.
so that's
I don't
not at
know.
all what he looked like, but that's in my head, that's his creature form forever. Um
Well,
Anyways, yep. So she and then she obviously chooses to go with him, which I thought was smart because I mean, it's die later or die now. But then if you die later, you can try and escape. So I
right.
mean, obviously, I understand like that logic.
Yeah.
Um, and but then I thought it was kind of interesting the way she explains how magic smelled, like how it smells like
Yeah.
copper,
And it
kind of
it
has
was
like a
like
metally.
bad. Yeah, it was a bad smell to them. So,
Yeah, or like it was how she could smell it, like it was really strong when
mhm.
she smelled it, and I mean, it kind of like I imagined it kind of even like tasted like a penny. I don't, like when you get like
Have
a.
you tasted pennies?
Well, I didn't want to say that. I mean, I was a kid once. Would you never put things in your mouth?
I
I
never
don't.
put coins in my mouth.
Well, you're better than me, I guess. I don't know. I've tasted metal.
Did you spit it out or did you swallow it?
No, I obviously didn't swallow it. I mean, I guess I.
That's not obvious to me. You're putting coins in your mouth.
No, I didn't. I did not swallow it. I don't even remember why I put it in my mouth. Or but even like when you're holding them, if you ever like get your hands in your,
No, I'm never
you've
like
never tasted you've never tasted metal. Anyways, I can relate to Feyre is what I'm trying to get at. And the taste and smell. I get it.
okay,
Um
wait. A little sidebar. Did you know that even if you've never like licked a specific object, if you look at it, like your brain can connect what your tongue would think the texture feels like. So if you're looking at like a sock in the room, you've never, well, I don't know about you, but I've never licked a sock,
I
but
guess
you
I've
can
never
like,
licked a sock, but I've licked like clothes have been in my mouth before.
well, sure. But like picture something you've never licked anything near that, but your brain can tell what the texture would be.
I mean, I
What are
guess
you what are you
I'm trying
looking
to
at
think of
now?
something
What are you looking at?
I'm just trying to think. Something I haven't. I don't want this to get weird. I'm
All right.
trying to find something I haven't put in my mouth.
So, moving on. Feyre learns that the High Fae, or the Fae that took her, is named Tamlin, and he's the High Lord of the Spring Court. And then she also, when he takes her there, he essentially tells her, hey, you are not a slave here. You can
Yeah,
go wherever you want. But if you leave,
but you have to stay in Prithian.
yeah, well, yeah, stay in Prithian. But if you leave where he's kind of the High Lord of the Spring Court, if you leave that area, you're not protected, and anything out there will kill you just because you're human. And
Yeah,
so,
so he's like, the choice is yours, but
right.
I suggest you stay here, kind of.
Yep. hmm
And she also meets Lucian, which is his emissary, and he is well. Okay, wait, let's backtrack. When she gets to Prithian, he changes back into his Fae form. And he has like long blonde hair. He has a green and gold mask on, not Thanos looking.
I didn't catch
And
any of this. I
she
still
explains
thought he
him.
looked like Thanos.
She explains him as being like beautiful, like
hmm
really good looking, and he's like muscular, big.
Yeah, but she's
And
still absolutely terrified of them.
yeah. Well, and then Lucian has like longer reddish hair. He has a metal eye or mechanical eye, and one his left eye, I think.
hmm
And doesn't he have like a scar on his face too? Below that.
I think so. Sounds
Um,
right to me.
but yeah, he's like she explained he's a little bit thinner, but he's just as tall.
hmm
Still like built, but not the same. Anyways, and he is like really snarky. And right
Yeah,
off the bat.
yeah.
He's
He was mad that she killed their friend,
well,
and
yeah.
Tamlin was, I feel like, more understanding that
Yeah.
she killed him. Like, not understanding, but also not
Like
as
obviously not
angry.
he was mad enough to like knock down her door and yell murderer and take her with him. So like he
Yeah,
clearly cared, but it was different. Like it felt like he got over it really fast.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so how would you feel in her situation? Being the main caretaker of her family and then being forced to leave them.
I would have anxiety.
Yeah, that would be really hard. I'm trying to think like if like you're the I don't know, I guess breadwinner would be like an easy way to explain it in
hmm
this like day
You
and
would
age.
think
And
your whole
then
family was gonna die, and then
yeah,
you're
like they're
just
screwed.
trapped.
They're screwed if
Uh-huh.
you die and they're screwed if you get taken. So
hmm
like and even though you don't like you have a somewhat rocky relationship with them, that doesn't mean that you don't like care about them
hmm
and stuff, obviously. I was a little surprised though, because I felt like the way she explained her sisters and like and her dad and her relationship with all of them, like obviously she cared about them, but I was a little surprised at like how hard she was like fighting to get back to them,
Mhm.
because I kind of just assumed, I guess, on a deeper level that she was taking care of them because ultimately she also needed these things. She
Yeah.
needed food, she needed like water, like all that stuff. So might as well get it for them. And not that I
Ooh.
didn't think that she wouldn't care when she left, but
Yeah.
like I was like, oh, I guess it for me it clicked like, oh, you're really doing this all for them. You don't. It's not about you like at all.
Mhm.
Like you really. This is the only way you know how to care for them is by taking care of them.
I feel like you just unlocked like thoughts I've been having, but never really like sunk into, oh yeah, I do agree with that. I, first of all, am one of those people like, if you're not going to help me, okay, well, that's not like best thing to say. But in this case where she's taking care of them and they're just like, give me money, you know,
Yeah,
I'm a tough love person. I don't think so. You better
I know.
earn it
I mean,
yourself.
it's not even so much that, it's also just like how many chances do you give someone? I
Right.
mean, I feel like a jerk saying this out loud, but I feel like I'm hoping other people thought it too, so I feel better about myself. But like at some point, I'd be like, fine, get your own food. Like I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, no, for sure. But I think if I was taken, like especially family's family. So if I was taken, I would feel very worried that they
Yeah.
were not going to make it.
Oh
Because
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's true. So I know like her whole goal is the whole time she's trying to like watch where she's going while he's taking her, and even when she's there, like she's just trying to escape. She's like stealing
yeah,
knives whenever she can to kind of like have, because she also doesn't trust anyone there. Um, and she's like trying to like make traps and everything. And
hmm
she's just like, she's there, but mentally she's still back at home.
right,
And she's just like doing everything she can. I also felt really bad, like empathized with her about how she couldn't read or write, so she couldn't send them anything to
I
like be like,
know,
"Hey, I'm fine. I'm coming for you. Like, do this, this, and this to survive until I can
yeah.
get back." Like,
Well,
she had
and
no way of communicating with them because she was
Tamlin
illiterate.
did Tamlin did tell her, "Hey, I'm taking care of your family." Or I don't think he said
Yeah,
I'm taking care of them, but they're well
they're
taken
well
care of.
cared for, is what he
Yeah,
said.
so don't worry about it. I wouldn't leave them in desolation, but I
But
think
she
she
doesn't trust
just
these people,
yeah,
so she
she didn't
doesn't.
believe him.
Yeah. However, she did or was under the impression from like different myths that she had heard growing up that Fae can't lie. So if
Yeah,
he's saying
yeah.
they're well taken care of for, she didn't really trust him, but she knew that that meant to some extent like they had something. At least like whatever she was able to provide for him was replaced.
Mhm.
Because she was under the impression that he couldn't lie, which she does find out very quickly that that's actually not true.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
um,
she's like, "How much more have I not been
yeah,
told that's actually
like what is actually like what else that have I learned that's wrong? Oh yeah,
right?"
because I mean everyone was like it was very peaceful there. She remember like she thought it would be really chaotic and like terrifying and everything, and everyone.
Mhm.
I mean, I think everyone was just as skeptical of her as she was of them, but they
Yeah.
were kind. Like they didn't like obviously like
Yeah,
initially
they were
like
civil.
yeah exactly.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then so while she's there, they're talking obviously, and she learns that just from like talking about magic and stuff, she learns that there's a blight that's attacking Prithian, and it's like causing their magic to not work the same way or be like weaker, and it's causing other fairies,
Mhm.
creatures that aren't supposed to be in the spring court to be able to like cross borders into the spring court and everything. So that blight adds a twist to her living situation, because they also mentioned that they don't know how it's going to affect the human world or human lands.
Mhm.
So like, and knowing that her family was alone, what were you thinking if you were her? Like, what would you be thinking in that situation?
I mean, I feel like I would still be in the same mindset of I got to get out of here. And well, but I kind of am like, get out of here to what? If the blight's coming, then it's
Yeah,
coming. But I also, I think, would just want to know more about what it is. So I might have been asking more questions about what the blight was because I feel like she did ask some questions, but then just settled for okay, it's attacking Prithian. Eventually, it'll attack Mortally, and she found out that it probably will spread over there, is what they said. But
yeah,
I would want to know: does that affect farming? Does that affect
yeah.
sicknesses? What is that?
That's true. She
What?
didn't really need a lot of detail. She kind of just like accepted it at face value and kind of went
Mm-hmm.
back to the okay, well, I need to get back there. Which also I was like, good for you for being brave, but at the same time, I was kind of like, what are you gonna do against this? Like,
Yeah.
your one human.
Right.
Like, I mean, she's strong and is smart and like was smart when it comes to like hunting and everything, and like
Yeah.
has a like great ability. But
Mhm.
if this is something that's like causing the High Lord of the Spring Court to be like
Who's
weakened,
supposed Okay, I don't know if you mentioned this. The High Lord of the High Lords, there's how many courts are there?
seven,
8? 7?
seven,
They're the most powerful in all the land. And
yeah,
so if that's affecting him so badly that he
exactly.
can't even protect his land, then how much more are you going to be defenseless when it comes to the mortal lands?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's like that was my thoughts exactly. But she does learn about like they just someone keeps referring to the like she, this woman, her, like they keep talking about this like unnamed lady that
Mhm.
and she is curious about that, which I was also obviously intrigued by. I wanted to learn more about. Um
Yeah.
but then I mean, then during this time she paints. They kind of touch on this and now she's never really had time or money to paint growing up,
Yeah.
or at least post losing her family's fortune. Um, and so she has like nothing but time here. She doesn't have to hunt and feed
Mhm.
anyone here. There's more food than she's ever seen. So she
Yeah.
has like a lot more time to like actually like relax
I
and paint.
I really liked how the author, SJM, takes chunks of time for people
Yeah,
to kind of get settled. Like I feel like in so many books it's here's the next scene, the next scene, the next scene. It's all action, 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 but
yeah,
she really draws out, okay, she's settling in. She's had a few days to go down to the library and try to write letters to her family. She's had some time to look at the
hmm,
maps and explore. She's had time to, she went out with Lucian and is hunting with him and just kind of getting
yeah,
to know him. So she gives a good amount of, hey, there's been time for her to get adjusted. And then relationships start growing with friendships with Lucian and maybe a little more with Tamlin, which also I did not expect because once
I did.
again,
It was Beauty and the Beast.
no, but I'm telling you, the way I pictured him and then did not pay
That's
attention to the
true.
description, I'm thinking he's a fatherly figure this whole time and that he's like taken her under his wings. So when it's like, oh,
Oh,
they started
gross.
getting close, I was like, huh. And then
Feyre,
I know, I went back and had to read the description of him and that he's a very attractive High Lord. And like, that's
non-father
how,
figure, Faye.
yes. So the whole time I'm like, disgusting.
Yeah, I know. I like that it was a slow burn between
Yeah.
them, but I going back to what you said, like I agree. I really like that. I liked how much inner dialogue Feyre has. Like
Yeah.
you really get to understand how her mind works and
Hmm.
like what makes her tick and all that because there's just so much of the internal and I mean this is kind of a theme I think throughout the books, all of them. I mean I know it touches on it more than others and some than others, but like the mental health like the like the thoughts and everything behind that.
Hmm.
I feel like there's a huge um I can't think of the words, but like there's a big like emphasis on that
Yes.
and kind of like the how like other people can help you but ultimately you are the one to kind of like have to make these
Yeah.
decisions and
No,
have
that's a
to
really good point that
you definitely need to lean on other people and like
mhm,
you support is absolutely necessary and stuff, but at the end of the day like you're the only one who can pull yourself out from it.
mhm.
um and I felt like she approached it really delicately and really well, like in a
Yeah.
way that it's not like, well, it's on you if you don't do it, kind of, because that's I mean ultimately that's not the truth either, but like there's some sense of responsibility that you have to take for yourself
Mhm.
too, and I feel like all the characters do that in a really
Yeah.
relatable way.
That's a really good point. I really never thought of that, but that is a very common theme throughout all
Yeah.
of the books that
Yeah.
she's written is
Specifically the
often
last one.
yeah, often a character is struggling with mental health and it's not a super clean, oh,
Yeah.
you fell in love and you feel better now, but it's a
Exactly.
constant battle of up and down and they'll be
Yeah.
doing great and then they go right back down to I'm not in a good headspace. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Agreed. Well, I was my point, but agreed.
Agreed with me.
Agreed. Anyway, so yeah, then like you kind of touched on like they start Feyre and Lucian and Tamlin, all of them, they start getting more comfortable with each other and like becoming friendly. Um, they show her like the really cool spots in the spring court, and it's I
Mhm.
mean, man, the way that she's writing about these places, I am so jealous that I don't get to visit them. Like,
Okay, I'm pretty sure, and I'm just, hear me out. A lot of these places exist in Europe. Just hear me out.
To some extent, I'm
The
sure.
way they explain, I'll probably get into this in the future podcasts because it has to do more with other settings, but the way they explain like the spring court, and it
Yeah.
just sounds like the English countryside. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, you're wrong, because I pictured more like French countryside.
Same, but different.
Oh, if anyone is listening to this, you are going to get ripped to shreds. Anyone from Europe, please listen and rip Ellie to shreds in the comments. Rip her to ribbons.
It's just our immediate families.
For now.
For
Hopefully.
now. All
No,
right.
it is very different. I mean, English. I picture English and like Irish and Scottish countrysides to be a lot like more similar, but French is more, I don't know, exquisite.
All right. I'll look it up. I'll come back. I'll report back next time.
Yeah. Ellie messed up the next time.
A little segment. What did I say wrong? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll have lots of those too.
Oh, I thought you meant for me. I was like, I'm signing off. Okay.
Goodbye. The Lamb podcast, because Ellie is no more. Okay, moving forward. So, how did you feel? And I know we'll explain what this is in a second, just in case. But how did you feel about the whole L.A.M.E scene?
Spicy. It was.
There's such a spice in the book. I feel it.
Yeah.
And it was just a touch, just a little taste.
Just a wee. It was really good because you feel this tension building between Feyre and Tamlin as he's taking her around and they're exploring the spring court, and they're just exploring all these really beautiful places and sitting really close to each other, but nothing happens, and you're like, slow burn. But L.A.M.E, I feel like, is where it really took off. So L.A.M.E is a celebration where the High Lord has to do it in order to
with just a female.
With just, I think it's like anybody that, so he basically
because a bunch of people like offer themselves to him. Yeah, he transforms into his beast form, and then it's like whoever.
No, it's not his beast form. It's just his like beast, I think, mindset
mentality. You're right.
Yes,
you're right.
But it's still like him as a full male person. But he has to pick someone, and then they go at it, and then that magic that's generated from
lasts them for a year.
that gives like the crops what they need to grow, and the magic to make the whole place springy for the entire year.
Springy. I think that's exactly how they describe it in the book.
Yeah.
This is L.A.M.E. Do it for springy.
All right.
No. Yeah, I will say, because I mean, I know I mentioned this in the beginning of the book, I was kind of like, what's going on, when they're explaining like all the Fae and everything, and then it got a lot more normal to me, even though they're in Prithian, and like, but it just still felt like, okay, they look more like humans now. It's obviously a budding romance, like I can relate to that. And then I felt like I got like slapped in the face when they were talking about L.A.M.E, and then like, yeah, he's gonna have to do it, and they're gonna be like a ravage, and there's fire, and it's to generate magic. I was kind of like, oh, I was reminded what I was reading again, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, it was cool to like learn about it and everything, but I do feel like it kind of got me again a little bit. I was very quickly brought back into like the fantasy aspect of this book.
Yeah.
But however, like I didn't understand how, because I felt like Tamlin was like really starting to open up, and then they started talking about L.A.M.E, and then he was like, you can't go, just like stay home, lock your door, don't even look at me, like, and I'm just like, why are you being so weird?
Well, and they don't tell her at first what goes on at L.A.M.E. It's just, hey, there's a ceremony,
just don't
go.
Well, and exactly, and like at this point I feel like I can relate to Feyre more, because they've like explained her personality and everything, and I too would be like, don't go. Okay, like, you're not gonna tell me what's gonna happen, and you're gonna tell me to just stay in my room. Not gonna happen, buddy boy. Like,
right.
I need to know. Just tell me if you don't want me to go. Like,
I actually feel like
I probably would have pushed on it a little bit more though than she did.
Perhaps. I feel like I actually would be the opposite. If someone who is not human and I'm in not a human area is telling me don't go, I'd be like, you got it.
You know what? That's true.
Staying
I
put.
think we didn't mention this, but like after her experiences with like the bogey and the naga and like all that, like the things that try to kill her and everything.
Yeah, the things that
You're
Tamlin
probably,
can't protect her from because of the blight.
yeah, you're probably right. I probably would have been like, fine, I'm not happy about it, but I'll stay here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, we never mentioned this, and this is important. Um, Everyone in the spring court is stuck in masks,
Oh yes.
like masquerade masks, because of the blight that's
Well,
affecting his magic.
we don't know that yet.
Yeah, we do.
No, we don't. Well, we just know that it. Oh, that's true. We just know that it's stuck on their face because of
The blight. Because
I
so
guess
his
you're right. They
magic is
do bring it up.
affected. They can't get it. Yeah, they
All
have
right.
to.
Melissa said things wrong already.
1 and 1, 2 tallies. Okay.
We should have a competition each episode. Loser has to. We'll figure something out. Loser has to do something then at the beginning of the next one.
Oh,
Okay.
I love it. Like Impractical Jokers.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. So, but then obviously, Farrah, she sneaks out. She goes and sees everything, and then she gets cornered by the 3 creatures that are like, "Hey, he gets to have some fun. We want to have some fun." And she,
Yeah, 3 fae who are just all about against someone's will, all about being against someone's will. Yeah.
Yep.
And so she pushes them off of her, and
then all of a sudden they like their faces like they go white. They're like,
yeah.
And then she feels someone put her arm around her. Who did you think that it was going to be? I assumed it would be Tamlin.
I
like at that point.
Yeah, definitely not Lucian, because I feel like Lucian comes off as more of like a scrawny henchman who's not very intimidating.
Not. I mean, I feel like he comes off more as like the wits, and Tamlin's the brawn. Not that Tamlin isn't smart, but that's kind of the gist that I got.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I didn't think it was Lucian either. But I'm like, well, she knows 2 people, so it has to be one of these 2.
Yeah. So when she looks, it's someone she's never seen before, but she describes him
as the most attractive male she's ever seen.
So when she said that, I was like,
though, I think
disrespectful, because obviously you have something going on with Tamlin. How are you going to say this guy is the most attractive man you've ever seen?
I mean, I agree. I was like, this feels. I was more like, why did she add this in? Because, I mean, people aren't blind. You can love someone and think that someone else is more attractive. Mm-hmm. Like that's not. That's just rude. If you're gonna, you'd be lying to people at that point. No, I mean it's rude to lie to your like partner. But if you are gonna say you are the most attractive person, when that's realistically probably not true. I don't know. Anyways, I didn't think it was rude like for Tamlin. I just was like, this felt unnecessary. Like other than to just explain that he's good looking, but I felt like the author could have done it differently. So I felt weird 100%. About reading it.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought she could have said like he was a very attractive male. He was
like
why and described him
point of view, like
but most attractive. I was like,
I know,
it's so like, disrespectful.
Wow. Well, but then they also explain that he has like dark black hair, like violet eyes and stuff. And in my head, I'm like, he doesn't sound as good looking as Tamlin just based on the description. And like super like black suit, really like clean cut. Mm-hmm. But then, I mean, they're like terrified of him. And gosh, I don't remember. What does he say to him?
He says, I've been looking for you.
That's, I can't believe I didn't remember that. Oh, now I do. And she just plays along. She's like, haha, yeah.
Yeah. And then he like flirts with her, but she's
she rejecting. Tells the other ones to get lost, and they scram.
He does, yeah. And then he's flirting with her. He wants to know more about where she's from. She lies. She says she's with her, I think, girlfriends or something like that. And ultimately rejects his advances.
And they're looking for me, so I should probably go.
Yeah. So she heads off. Then Lucian sees her, and he is pissed and shocked. And he's like, you should not be here. He brings her back to the manor immediately. And he's like, this is going to fall on me if Tamlin sees you here.
So then that's when he tells her to like go in your room, lock your door, and like do not come out no matter what. Do not
come back out. Yeah.
So, okay, but here's my thing. Even after this, she's still like rolling her eyes like, fine. I'm like, you just almost got like taken advantage of, and you're not going to listen to him seriously now? Like, but but I digress. So she does begrudgingly, and then is like, I'm a little hungry. I want a snacky snack. So she decides to walk down to the kitchen.
Yeah. Well, and prior
Take
to
it
that, I
away.
think Lucian no, you're gonna leave this scene to me. I think Lucian explains what happens at L.A.M.E. So that's when she learns that like
That's
Tamlin
true.
is with another,
Getting busy.
which gives the reader, I feel like, jealousy, which is really interesting that she pulled that kind of emotion out of me while I'm reading, which I liked because it's not often that a book will make you feel.
It's good writing.
It is.
Yeah.
And so Lucian tells Feyre Tamlin's not going to be acting like himself. She goes to her room, like he says, but then like what you said, she gets hungry. So she goes to find
little midnight snack.
Little midnight snack. And Tamlin sees her there. And he was like, I smelled you.
Okay, so I don't know this scene, the way it unfolded in my mind. I don't know. I mean, I guess you kind of brought this up too. I know he's not blonde, but I picture Tamlin as being Sam, the guy who plays Jamie in Outlander. That's just, I was watching Outlander right before.
Oh, really?
Yes, I told you this. I was watching Outlander right before I started reading these books.
Mm-hmm.
It was fresh in my mind, and I feel like in the later seasons of Outlander, his hair gets more blonde as it gets longer, just lighter. So, anyways, that's who I picture. So I'm picturing almost like a scene from Outlander, even though I'm picturing like inside like the French like house that they lived in that like the third season or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's dark. There's lightning in my head, even though there's not lightning in the actual writing. And he's just standing at the end of the hallway, like stare. You can just see like the whites of his eyes and like a shadowy figure. And and then he goes, I smelled you.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, hey, I was just hungry.
And so I think he was like, I don't remember what happens. Like he says, I wanted you, but it made me take
he's
another.
Like, you should have stayed in your room. Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, I was looking for you, but it made me
Yeah.
take another. And so he's like covered in pain. She's seeing like all the smear marks from, what if my mom listens to this? I don't want to keep going.
My mom's read this. Shout out to Sean. I got her to read it.
So basically, he corners her against a wall, and then he bites her neck, and she's like, don't like
and
it.
Then pushes him off.
Yeah, like, pushes him off, goes back up to her room, and she's like, okay. So
and it's almost like, oh my god, like what just happened?
Mm-hmm. So you're like, does she like it? Does she not? I don't know. But then she goes, because
like it seems like she does, but she doesn't want to give him the satisfaction of it, so she acts
exactly.
Irritated.
She's prideful for sure. Yeah, it's like a fake pride. Yeah. So then the next day she gets really petty. She wears something that's like low cut, not on low her cut,
but I mean just
neckline.
Like something to where this part is exposed, and just walks down and sits at the breakfast table in front of Tamlin and Lucian. It's just like, like, wonder what happened here.
And Lucian's like, what the heck happened to your neck? And she's like, why don't you ask him?
Yes, Tamlin. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he didn't apologize at first. Felt bad. Yeah. So she left the table and they were both being prideful. But then the next day he apologized.
No, I think, I might have to add a second tally to mine, but I'm pretty sure they like, he does feel bad, but doesn't say anything. And so that makes her angry. So she kind of like picks a fight, I think. And then they both are irritated with each other at that point.
Yeah, might be. Yeah. It was kind of more minor in my head. So
but then they apologize. Yeah, it was obviously it's not a big deal. But then they apologize and get over it.
Yeah, and then she goes back to paint some more in her room.
Oh no, he gets mad at her for going in the first place and like being out.
That would make sense.
That's what it is. I'm sorry. Anyways, and then she goes and paints some more, and that's pretty much where this one ends.
Half the book done.
Kind of, not even quite half.
Yeah,
but most of it. This is like all of the setting. The second book is like the action. This is like all of the setting of the series.
Like I said, first half is discipline. Second half is just pure enjoyment.
I wish there was so much more details that I wish we could have gone over if we had like 8 hours to just talk about this book.
Yeah, I agree. But that just gives all the listeners reason to go read it because we barely scratched the surface. I feel like we give you a little gist, but there's a reason that we
give you a little
so good
midnight snacky snack. And if you want to get bit in the neck, you have to read the rest of it.
Do you have questions you want to ask?
Yes, I do. I mean, I guess we've kind of already been asking questions, but
Yeah.
All right. Who is your favorite character in the book so far?
Absolutely Tamlin at this
Yeah,
point.
100%. I actually also really liked Lucian. I
Yeah.
think he provided like a little bit of comedic relief, and I
Yeah.
tend to gravitate towards those characters. So I also really enjoyed like all the scenes that he was in.
For sure. I've seen, though, a lot of people on the kick of Feyre should have ended up with Lucian.
No,
And
disagree.
that's such an
1000%.
unpopular thought. But I mean, even to the end of the series, they're like, Feyre should have ended up with Lucian. And
No,
I'm
I
like,
know. I really like
no.
how their friendship progresses.
Yeah. Their friendship is
Um,
good. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I obviously, just as with reality, every like there's rocky parts of it and stuff. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I can't go too far into this without like ruining like the third like multiple books, but maybe we'll touch on. I'll try and remember. I probably won't. I'll try and remember to like bring this back
Yeah.
after
Jot a note
we've
down.
talked about more of the books. Okay, so jumping into another question. This book is loosely based on the plot of Beauty and the Beast. Did you find this helpful to get into the story?
Yeah. I really like retellings of fairy tales. So I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it took me again still a few chapters to get into it because the Beauty and the Beast theme doesn't like stand out and like right away. It
Hmm.
doesn't I don't feel like it really comes into play until she ends up in Prithian, but once I was there, I liked it. But I remember texting you and be like, "Ellie, this is just Beauty and the Beast."
Yeah. I
like
remember that.
um but like again, this was before I even understood the hype around the books. Like I didn't know anything. This was before my algorithm on Instagram was pushing book talk. Like I didn't know that that was like so I mean it was pretty obvious, but I didn't realize that that was like
Yeah.
so commonly known about it. So I I'm going to be admitting something really stupid. I was kind of like had a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, "Look at me making connections." But it's so obvious at the same time.
That's okay. Yeah,
It
so
it did help me
Lucian.
though. Whoa.
What?
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm adding to this. So
Oh,
Lucian
okay.
is
Lucian's
absolutely
Lumiere.
he's Lumiere. He's
Yeah,
Lumiere with a whirly eye, and that I
and
think
Alice is Cogsworth,
I picture Alice as the dresser
the
in
wardrobe.
yeah, the wardrobe.
Yeah, she's like a mix because I feel like she's kind of like the wardrobe is like warm and friendly, and Alice isn't quite that. I feel like she has
That's
more of
true.
like a Cogsworth attitude, but
That's true.
she is obviously like more. I guess you're right. She's more of the wardrobe. That was the
Uh
extent of all the Beauty
yeah,
and the Beast
that's
characters,
all the
though.
characters.
That's it.
So
There's not very many of them in the beginning.
yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it like I was already into it at that point, so I liked it because there was like a familiar aspect. But my favorite part of the book is the second half, which has nothing to do with Beauty and the Beast. So yeah,
Yeah,
for me, it like it didn't really make any difference. I think I would have liked it just as much if it hadn't have been so similar because
sure.
I was already invested at that point once like the connection was kind of made.
All right, I'm going to ask you the next question. What was your favorite quote from these chapters? And I guess this is our last and final question. So,
Yeah.
no
My
pressure.
favorite no pressure. My favorite quote, which we didn't get to talk about this, so just to set the scene, there was one part in the book where Tamlin had been gone. He was trying to fight one of the creatures that were being able to cross the borders, and he comes back carrying another Fae. Who was I'm pretty sure he was like all blue, like didn't look anything like the people of the Spring Court.
Hmm.
And he's just like bleeding and like clearly in pain, and he sets him on the table in their like dining room, and he originally had wings but at this point did not have wings, and she kept just saying she took my wings, she took my wings, like over and over again. And I really liked this point because this was the first point in the book where I felt like Feyre didn't have the fact that she's a human in the back of her mind. This was
Hmm.
like the breaking point between, yes, I'm different, but we are all
We're all just
same. Like
creatures. Yeah.
yeah, like we're all just trying to survive. Like
Hmm.
at this point. Um and so I felt like there was like and I think Tamlin saw that in her too. So this was kind of like the softest moment of her thus far in the book.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was created a really big impact on obviously their relationship going forward, but just kind of like your understanding of her. And I feel like I really started to like her more. But so with that being the scene, there's this quote, he died, the fairy dies because he just like, they can't stop the bleeding and Tamlin's magic isn't strong enough to heal him because of the blight.
So Fairy takes his hand and like is with him while he dies.
Yep. And then Tamlin asks her like why he did that. And she says, because I wouldn't want to die alone. I said as my voice wobbled and looked at Tamlin again, forcing myself to meet his stare, because I'd want someone to hold my hand until the end and a while after that. That's something everyone deserves, human or fairy. And I was like, oof, that got me. Because I also was like, one of the first handful of times where she actually meets his stare, like looks at him and speaks to him too. Like she talks to him and stuff, but she's still kind of nervous and everything. I don't know. That was like a really big turning point for me and like a shift in the book in this story.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite quote.
That's a good one. I loved it.
Awesome.
Well, all right. That is the end of our very first podcast. If you share our podcast on Instagram, we'll shout you out on the next one. Or 3 from now. We're recording a little ahead of time. But
we'll
your name will be brought up once at some point. So keep listening.
Yeah. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, let us know. We're gonna, moving forward, we'll be having, or we'll be like posting the questions that we're gonna be talking about.
We could
online.
We might not. We could. We're figuring it out. So you might see
them. We're still learning. That's our thought. So that you guys can like come prepared. So this feels like more of a book club, I guess. Don't forget to like, subscribe, keep listening, share it with your friends. We will be back with another episode for the second half of this book, and then we will be continuing throughout the rest of the ACOTAR series.
All right. Have a good week.
See you later.
Bye.